Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. The Nigerian satellite, NIGCOMSAT 1R, is one of the critical national infrastructure under the purview of the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy that can be leveraged to deepen broadband penetration as well as to deliver direct-to-home DTH services in the country. The satellite can be used for demography, including the planning and mapping of population surveys, the mapping of census and enumeration areas, the planning and monitoring of rural and urban growth, and the provision of early warnings for natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and storms. NIGCOMSAT 1R provides transponder leasing services on KU-band, C-band, and K-band platforms, in addition to greater look angles and lower latency for intra-African communications traffic. 28 transponders and 7 antennas ensure stronger footprints and center beams spanning Africa, Europe, and Asia. Tonight, the drivers of these key digital components will be digesting issues Nigerians need to know about: the latest innovation, growing technologies, and improved services, and make sense generally of all those terms that we have used on NTA Tuesday Live. But before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by ICT correspondent Olajide Bello.
Nigeria's communication satellite. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Space activities in other parts of the world impact positively on critical sectors of the economy, aside generating commercial revenues. The impact on agriculture, transport, and the environment as technology transfers from space exploration can also impact on medical practice with telemedicine, medical imagery. Generating these kinds of benefits from Nigeria's investment in space is one of the responsibilities of the Nigerian communications satellite, NIGCOMSAT, as a commercial venture. NIGCOMSAT is poised to provide safe and precise satellite-based augmentation system, SBAS, for productivity and the value proposition over Africa and beyond, with a mission to provide highly precise navigation and positioning services for public safety, transportation, geographic information system, security of critical and strategic national infrastructure in a mix-free and controlled market. The question is, with the changing market landscape due to new technologies, how will NIGCOMSAT raise its competitiveness with emerging technologies by meeting the 5 critical pillars set by the government to build a strong digital economy? How is NIGCOMSAT going to achieve the 5 pillars of the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy's blueprint, which are knowledge, policy, infrastructure, trade, and capital innovation entrepreneurship to build a strong digital economy? NIGCOMSAT says it is realigning with the Renewed Hope initiative of President Tinubu's administration with a view to repositioning Nigeria's space technology to be more competitive. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. I'd like to start off by introducing our guests. Let's welcome to this program Mrs. Jane Nkechi Egatini-Dehe, who's Managing Director, CEO, NIGCOMSAT. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Cyril. It's nice to be here.
Right. Let me also introduce Nemego Obiora, Group Head, Satellite Broadband Broadcast Company, a subsidiary and special business unit of NIGCOMSAT. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, Mr. Stober. It's our pleasure to be here, and good evening, viewers. Thanks for having us.
And we're also joined tonight by Olufunke Fagbeja, Head Marketing, also of NIGCOMSAT. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. Good evening.
Right. Well, as you know, the nature of the program, at some point in time, it goes interactive. And when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and procedures. But for now, let's begin to look at the issues. I know that in our introduction, You must have heard us use those terms, technical terms, and for a lot of people, they might wonder what that jargon actually refers to. But that's what this program was set out to do. As our guest tonight will break it down so we get to understand what's up with NIGCOMSAT and just how it can key into the new administration's vision for the country. So let's start off and from the very basics and find out what differentiates communication satellite from other kinds of satellites. And we'll start with the NDCU.
Thank you, Cyril. So, and a very interesting question. Thank you for that question. What actually differentiates us? I think one of the key things with satellite communication is that we do that using a satellite. And using a satellite to communicate means we are not restricted by terrestrial barrier, and I will explain. In the conventional ways of communicating, so if you're going to use a mobile operator, for example, they have to build base stations. Sometimes for like fiber companies, they have to lay fiber. With the satellite company, we don't do any of those. We just have to shoot up a satellite in the sky. And with the sky, I normally say with the satellite in the sky, if there's space anywhere, we can communicate. Because we have one of these, what we call terminal dishes, like a DSTV dish, you put in the remote area, and with that, we're able to communicate in the sky. So our medium for communication is the thin air.
Right, so again, the first thing many would ask is at the time Nigeria decided to go into this, quite a number of people would say, what's in it? What's the benefit of it? Well, of course, advanced countries had launched satellites into space, and they wondered if it was time for Nigeria to join that league, if it was expedient at the time we did, and if there were any benefits really, especially for the rural population.
Very good question as well, and I would say this, that one of the great advantage of satellite communication is that it actually has a very minimal barrier in terms of providing access. Now, taking cost aside, with a satellite, we can provide access to anywhere there's coverage. It's not tied to cost, and I'll explain further. With a satellite, we can put up that dish in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of Zambezi forest, anywhere, and we can provide access. That's why the use case for unserved and underserved areas is actually best suited for satellite. While we have limitations with maybe private sector using terrestrial, because then they are limited to find that there's a commercial use case. I'll give you an example. To put an average maybe base station from a mobile operator in an area or a community requires a minimum of maybe 2,000 people in that population before it makes business sense to put that. It doesn't for me. I just require 1 or 2 persons that want the service, and I put the dish. So with that, we can create access, and access, like we know, is one of the key things or the mandate for us as a unit, because the ministry wants to make sure that at least by 2027, we have broadband access across the nation. NIGCOMSAT together with Galaxy have been, mandated to do that. And I think we're the best people positioned to do that because we have the best use cases to go to these rural areas and provide coverage and access.
All right, let's come to the group head of Satellite Broadband Broadcast Company. Say it's a subsidiary of NIGCOMSAT and Special Business Unit, and we're going to be coming to you from that angle and say, look, what is it? What kinds of services or solutions will the population expect from NIGCOMSAT?
For a communication satellite, NIGCOMSAT being a communication satellite company, one of the first things you have to expect is that it's a special kind of satellite because there are different other types of satellite, like Earth observation satellite, which is used for mapping and geographic information system, city planning, population control, and every other thing. So that's a different kind of satellite. And then there is the spy satellite, which of course carries the camera payload, which of course you can use to observe things on planet Earth. Then communication satellite, which is a type of satellite being managed by NIGCOMSAT, is actually the satellite that relay information or data from one point of the planet to the another point of the planet. Satellite is merely a bent pipe through which services are carried, which means you can carry data service, you can carry audio service, you can carry video services over the satellite. What this translates to Nigeria is that Nigeria, being a very vast country with large number of population, they find out that trying to use terrestrial infrastructure to cover the entire country, even smaller countries that are smaller than Nigeria, have not been able to achieve that. So if you're going to get people into the super information communication highway, if you're going to get people involved in digital economy, if you're going to provide broadband access to a large number of people, if you're going to make sure that NTA covers every part of Nigeria, for example, or every other broadcaster, for example, have access to cover a large swath of the population, then you know that communication satellite is the go-to technology to achieve that. So this is just one of the few things that communication satellite can do for our people. If you're now talking about so many rural people living in rural community areas that are marked as unserved and underserved communities, when you want to extend communication infrastructure to this area, sometimes it does not make economic sense, like my MD has already said, to use terrestrial infrastructure to reach them. The best option for you to deploy service is satellite technology. You can reach a large number of people once the satellite is launched to its orbit, which is about 32,000 kilometers away from the equator, out of the equatorial plane. So it's hanging out there in the space within the for geo-based satellite. So once they're there, you can immediately deploy services without wasting time. It can take you just a single day to set up a communication satellite infrastructure in the ground once the satellite is launched. So these are some of the key ways that satellite will benefit Nigerians and help in deepening broadband penetration to rural areas and deliver services to to countries and areas that you cannot easily get to with terrestrial infrastructure.
Right. The renewed hope mantra of this administration is high on a digital economy. And so people would be looking to see how the services and operations of NIGCOMSAT can enhance the digital economy. And that's where we'll go to as we speak with the head of marketing. And if you were to speak to, say, a group of young students, to tell them the benefits of a digital economy and how NIGCOMSAT's services can deepen that, how would you put it?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Like my MD and my colleague have said, NIGCOMSAT provides the platform for connectivity. So when we're talking about the digital economy, you can as well say that NIGCOMSAT provides the platform for that. NIGCOMSAT can be used to push that. Now, because we provide connectivity, and when you're talking about digital economy, it's all about connectivity and making access easy for people in the urban areas and the rural areas. And that's where NIGCOMSAT comes in. Because like my colleague said now, once you launch a satellite, NIGCOMSAT 1 hour is in space. It has coverage over Nigeria, 100%. It has 100% coverage, full coverage over Nigeria. And so it means that with regards to having and ensuring a digital economy, NIGCOMSAT can provide the platform for that. With regards to e-governance, with regards to broadband penetration, internet services, NIGCOMSAT can provide that. In the report that we heard earlier, there were talks on telemedicine, tele-education. These are applications that can ride on NIGCOMSAT 1 hour. For example, when you talk about telemedicine, it's about having access to quality education wherever you are. It means that a school in the urban area can be linked to a school in the rural area to ensure they have equal access to the same standard education, quality education. When you talk about telemedicine, it means that we've even done a test on this in that we connected a teaching hospital to some clinics in the rural area for diagnosis purposes, for treatment purposes, to ensure that they can also have access to quality medical service. So the digital economy is about transforming every sphere and every segment of the economy, and the best thing to do it is through ICT, and NIGCOMSAT provides the platform for this, for several applications.
You know, a few years ago, the world was faced with a pandemic, and of course, so many places had to be shut down, and Nigeria was, as part of the global community, suffered just the same fate as many other countries, especially in the early days of COVID-19. How so has the experience from that gone to demonstrate why what we're talking about tonight is expedient and imperative, especially when it comes to education, e-education, when so many schools had to, there was no physical presence there, but learning had to continue.
Yes, thank you. Now, most people, of course, people had to stay home, schools were shut and all that, and so people had to go online for education and all that. And this is where NIGCOMSAT comes in, because NIGCOMSAT provides connectivity, so NIGCOMSAT provides platform that schools can ride on, so you can be in your home and you can access lectures and courses and so on, and it can be interactive. So you're having lectures, but you're in your home, you can ask questions, you're connected to your lecturer, and it's an interactive session. So NIGCOMSAT provides the platform for this. In addition to this, we have a direct-to-home facility, and that's for broadcasting. And how this helps with regards to education is that, let me use a state for example. A state government can have a channel on the direct-to-home facility. They can have a channel and they can broadcast content, educational content. And by broadcasting this educational content within their state, NIGCOMSAT will provide the platform for this within their state. It will ensure that irrespective of the school, irrespective of the location of the school, they would have access to those contents. It could be live, it could be interactive, real time. It could be something that could be stored so that at their own pace, they could have access to the courses. So that's something that through COVID and during COVID, NIGCOMSAT played an important role, a strategic role, and that's something that we're still doing currently.
Cyril, can I add to what she said? Because I thought what she said is really important, but I really wanted to say that that question is so valid, because I think that's the first time we all realize the importance of ICT, that it affects every aspect of our lives. I think before then we thought it was only those in tech, for startups. You know, there was like a small segment of people we thought, those are people that it really makes sense for. But I think with COVID, we realized that every aspect, medical, agriculture, you couldn't even shop. You couldn't leave your house. So everything you had to do, you had to even see a doctor. You had to do it online. And that the background or the basics or foundation of that is broadband. The only way you could do that is that you have access. And I think that's when it became clear to a country like Nigeria that we didn't really have access. We have access in the urban areas, semi-urban areas, or in the cities. We don't really have access where the majority of the population sits. And that became a problem, because those that lived in Lagos could shop, could do their banking, could call their doctors, could go to school. But schools outside the cities and the urban areas couldn't do that. There was no access. And that's what Funke is saying. That's where the use case becomes really solid for NIGCOMSAT, because we can provide access in all those areas.
And that's the very area we're going into now, to assess the level of access. And for a country like Nigeria, there have been questions raised about it, even now, about how much access you have, especially even in the urban centers, the adequacy of that access, the penetration in the rural areas, and that's what we're trying to look at this time. How would you assess it?
I think data says we have about 50%, and that's mostly driven by the mobile operators. For a country as large as Nigeria, with about 200 million people, that is nothing. That means you're saying only 100 million. And it doesn't mean that it's only 100 million, because most times people have secondary SIMs. So even though we're saying 50%, that's someone like me that has 3 SIM cards, 4 SIM cards, you know, that counts. The truth is that the majority of the population do not sit in the cities. The access lies in the cities. The fiber, the mobile base stations is all in the cities and the urban areas. And where you really need, if you want to create inclusion, which is what I think we're really going for, is that you have to go to the areas where people actually live. It's not just the cities people live. A majority of Nigerians live outside the cities, outside the urban areas. I think that's why it becomes important that for them to be included in the digital economy, you have to give them access. Access is the basic right first, before we think about other things.
To lend my voice
Yes, please.
to what my MD and my colleague has said too about it, because in a more practical terms of some of the things we were able to do, especially during the COVID era, at that point, there was a project in Nigeria for the AKK project for the gas pipeline in Nigeria, in which nobody was allowed to move around in Nigeria then. And the then former president wanted to commission the AKK gas line pipe project. So NIGCOMSAT, through its satellite, had to make that possible. Instead of coming to Ajokuta to do that commissioning, and the Rigasa in Kaduna State to do that commissioning, he stayed back at the villa. NIGCOMSAT deployed its satellite infrastructure at those locations. And then former president was able to commission the projects over NIGCOMSAT 1R satellite, using the infrastructure that was set up in those locations to remotely commission the project. That was a practical example of what NIGCOMSAT did during that era as well. And then the platform we have for on the broadcast service that we offer is one of the things, because the beauty of it is that, Nigeria, our GDP is not sub-Saharan African GDP, if you compare it to the global GDP, is not, you can't say it's one of the best. Sometimes you see the next country, which is like the Southern Asia countries, are like double the GDP of sub-Saharan Africa. And if you move to the greater ones, which is the North America, is like times 10 of sub-Sahara. What I'm trying to say in this is that if you look at it, there are forms of communication you can use. If you ask an average person to access video files over normal internet services, which is uplink and download services, you find out that the cost of subscription is very heavy, that almost an average person cannot afford that. But how do NIGCOMSAT come in? These are solutions we've already demonstrated. The Ministry of Education is doing fantastic work in what they are doing in creating Aspire educational content created and hosted on their sites. NIGCOMSAT leverages on this, hopefully with the support of the government, such that those educational content can be streamed in a one-way satellite broadcast, which does not involve you spending money on data. But now you can schedule this educational content for students wherever they are. The beauty of it is that once you uplink it, it covers not just Nigeria, it covers about 31 countries in Africa, which means this educational content can be streamed and be sent across to everyone, inclusiveness, no matter wherever you live in Nigeria. So when we have such situations like the pandemic and other things, so it brings more to the forefront why the essence of communication satellite is needed in Nigeria. Today, we could say that the broadband penetration in Nigeria is about 45.5% or thereabout. And Nigeria being what it is, and we know that there are still about more than 27 million Nigerians that are not connected. And why is it so? It's because of the large landmass of the country that other traditional or other terrestrial infrastructure or communication services is not able to cover fully. Satellite is the only ubiquitous, or communication satellite rather, is ubiquitous network that could reach out to this. Nigeria has taken the first step in acquiring this satellite. The next is the investment, the support, the funding that is required to ensure that we get the terminal, the end node devices to where they are needed in the rural communities and underserved areas in order to increase it up to 90% like the Honorable Minister aspires to do in a very short term.
All right. Apart from our studio discussion, we also have a couple of reports. Let's take the very first now from Kaduna.
According to World Bank report, Nigeria is one of the countries with the biggest economy in Africa and the largest populations of young people in the world, well positioned to develop a strong digital economy that will have a life-changing impact on Nigerians, but yet to take advantage of access to information and knowledge, which opens up more opportunities for people, empowering them to become self-reliant.
Another advantage of NIGCOMSAT is positioning the country in the global world as a nation that value ICT. I mean, there is, we've just recorded some increase in the year 2020, almost talking about 14 to 15% contribution to the GDP.
If we can get mobile connection, I mean data, at a subsidized rate, is actually going to boost our economy in the sense that our young ones will be able to get across to learn some skills online.
An ICT expert in Kaduna, Lawal Abdullahi, says ICT makes information acquisition and management easier and more efficient that will help end the menace of insecurity in the state.
Kaduna State had wanted scenario where they can actually eliminate all those targets, you know, by bombarding them and all those things. You can't achieve it without the NIGCOMSAT intelligence. I mean, this satellite can give you reliable information, and it can move around. It's very flexible.
We watch in other films, like American films, where you see them using network, using satellites to track, to see different parts of the world, different parts of the country where human troops may not be able to get to.
With the right political will, we can get it done. The infrastructure is there. If there is any technical issue with it, those technicalities can be mitigated so that we can put it into use. Kaduna State can benefit a lot. Those satellites can contribute to the contemporary challenges we are facing. Reliable intelligence, reliable information is an information we can get. When we refine it, we examine it, we evaluate, it becomes reliable intelligence for decision makers.
The consensus is that if Kaduna State government can leverage on the communications satellite using the instrument in its fold, the state will no doubt be a force to reckon with in this 21st century. In Kaduna, Adamu Sunday.
All right. That report highlights one area I would like to explore further. And that's speaking about the current situation, the security challenges which the country faces, and what this can do to mitigate it. And for so many Nigerians at the point where it became obvious that the criminals were carrying out their acts using communication gadgets, and people felt, why can't we trace where these things have been used from? And if we have a satellite, why can't we see where they are, deep into the forests where they set up camp and carry out their acts? And so that report has talked about an aspect of that, and let's explore it further.
I think it's worth exploring. Thank you for that question. I will leave Obera to talk about the details, but it is worth exploring because we have talked about the power of using a satellite. I think the question is why are we not? Because we have one. You know, I know we talk about there's no coverage in some areas, we can't track them, we can't see them, but we do have a satellite that covers the entire country. Why are we not using it is the question. And maybe this is our own appeal to all the agencies that are out there. That make good use of your asset. This is something of a national pride. Let's use it. There are 54 countries in Africa. There's only about 10 of them that have a satellite. Let's make good use of it. But I'll let Obera here talk about the details of how we can do that technically.
Thank you, MD. Yeah. And this still led me to go back to sometimes there are differentiation about different kinds of satellites and the payloads they carry, and sometimes you have to make this differentiation so that you should be able to understand what each satellite can do at each point. So for a satellite that carries camera payload, the camera payload helps you to visualize the Earth's surface and everything that moves on Earth. So those ones you find Earth observation satellite, like I mentioned earlier, and then in some cases spy satellite, which helps you to monitor the movement of people on planet Earth. So sometimes some of them are on a lower orbit, the orbit we call the low Earth orbit or medium Earth orbit, LEO and MEO. So again, this is different from a communication satellite, which carries a payload on L-band, Ku-band, C-band, and other ones. So if you want to use communication satellite for surveillance system, in order for you to observe a video system or signals, one of the things you have to do is that it works hand in hand with ground infrastructure, which of course you interconnect with the satellite, that enables you to see some of the video uplink from one part of the Earth to another part of the Earth from where you're observing. So this is a major difference. But now coming to how satellite is being used to fight insecurity, and how it at NIGCOMSAT, a case point where we have used it to fight insecurity. We know that communication infrastructure that is ground-based is always a major challenge. When there is insecurity or terrorism or any kind of attack, the first thing they do is to attack the cell towers, the ones they can reach because of nearness, proximity to those infrastructure. And once they do that, what happens? That means you collapse the entire communication infrastructure. Some of them even go as far as vandalization of fiber optic cables and some other terrestrial communication infrastructure, which we have witnessed in some parts of the country in the past. And when this happens, that means even the security forces are lost on what to do, because the worst thing that could happen to anyone is to be in a place and you are unable to communicate to your headquarters or to your superiors or to other logistics and support personnel that will help to ensure that you secure the area of interest. So when this happened in one part of the country, what NIGCOMSAT did at that point, because like we said, communication satellite is seated at the geo orbit, which is located 32,000 kilometers away from the equator. So there is no way a vandal can go there. There is no way you can touch it. There is no way you can dismantle the satellite out in the space. So when every other communication infrastructure in that given state in Nigeria was completely broken down, they resorted to communication satellites as the next communication infrastructure to use in both relaying information among themselves, and that's to show you the importance of communication satellite in fighting security and ensuring that so any country at all without communication satellite in infrastructure is in a big trouble. That's why it's important that NIGCOMSAT will continue to work hand in hand with all the key. We encourage the ones that are not yet on our infrastructure to work together with us.
You know, when you say you encourage those who are yet to be on your infrastructure to come with you, the first thing we would want to know is, why are they not? If this is so beneficial, as you have said, what's the drawback?
Cyril, maybe that's why we're here. We are here to appeal to them that if you're not, why are you not? Maybe it's in the past, so I will not absolve ourselves from all the blame. Maybe in the past, they haven't seen us as efficient and productive and reactive as they would love to see. But we are now saying that we are open for business. We are ready to compete at the rate of the market. We will give you the normal support and performance you will get even with the private operators. So you should actually use us.
Let me ask this. Is cost a factor here?
You wouldn't, cost is not a major factor, because number one, if you look at it, NIGCOMSAT is a Nigerian company, completely owned by the federal government of Nigeria, and our charges are Naira based. It's not dollar based. We all know the fluctuation of the exchange rate in this country over the past few years, not just today. So we see that the fluctuation has been on the increase, but NIGCOMSAT, our price model has always been Naira denominated, which means that we stand to be the cheapest.
Okay. And since you say that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard stories about why some agencies would rather not patronize NIGCOMSAT and go elsewhere. That's been in the open for quite a while. I did some interviews at some point in time, and this was the general feeling. Why would you think they'll do that?
Okay, well, it depends on the agencies. They would have their reasons for this, but like my MD said, we are open for business now.
Okay.
And so
what are you doing differently?
Yes.
What wasn't there in the past? What would make people look elsewhere?
Yes.
And what's it now that has to make them take a second look and say, hang on a moment, we do have NIGCOMSAT.
Yes. Now we're promising efficiency in our services. We're promising enhanced service delivery. We're promising support, business support, technical support. So these were things that were lacking before with regards to our infrastructure. But now we've upgraded some of our infrastructure. And with this upgrade, we are assuring our potential customers, we're assuring the market, we're assuring Nigerians, the agencies, even the rest of Africa where we have coverage, that we would give enhanced service delivery.
Let me add one more thing, because of practical example of what has happened in the past of a customer that was attuned to using a specific foreign operator, which I will not mention their name, because they are more comfortable using some of these big names because they've been in the industry before us. We're actually babies in the industry when you compare our existence versus some of the big industry leaders. So the first thing is that Nigerian thinking about, oh, if it's local, if it's Nigeria, you will not be better than the rest of the people that have been doing it for years. And then, surprisingly, this particular customer decided to move. First of all, what drove him was the exchange rate. Mm-hmm. The exchange rate drove him to move his services from the foreign-based service provider, where he was doing a virtual network operating services, VNO service with this particular, and moved to NIGCOMSAT. The first thing he noticed was that there is something we call it EIRP, which shows the intensity of the radiation of the signal strength of the satellite over a region. Because that signal strength will enable you to save money in the size of the antenna dish you use, size of the transmitting equipment you use, and then some other cost-saving factors. When he moved towards NIGCOMSAT and started using NIGCOMSAT and we onboarded him, he confessed actually that instead of using a 1.8 meter KU band antenna dish, he was able to use 1.2 over NIGCOMSAT. Instead of using a 4 watt block-up converter, which is used for the transmission, he was able to use a 3 watt, which is leading to more watt cost savings in the customer premise equipment, translating more savings for the customers that are connecting to his service. Plus the fact that he was paying Naira. But first, the skepticism was his major problem, that he looked at it and felt that even in some industries too, even in the broadcast sector as well, we've had some operators too that felt the same way. But when they came to NIGCOMSAT, they now discovered that the stability of the service, because NIGCOMSAT transponders were actually designed as a regional beam with the strength for the region, considering all the other scintillation and rain fade effect and other factors that could weaken the signals. So we consider this because we know that we are in a tropical rainforest region. We know the effect of rainfall on KU band and KA band and other services, and these are some of the design parameters that we considered while designing and building NIGCOMSAT 1-hour satellite, because Nigerian engineers were involved from day one in the design and the plan. So some of these factors, when they now come face to face with this, some of them were really amazed. So, and that's the major reason we are still soliciting for the ones that are still in doubt, that it's time to come back home and keep this money, spend Naira to grow the Naira.
And Cyril, if I may add, that's why we're also planning a stakeholders meeting this Friday, because we want to reach out to our stakeholders, not just our customers, but other potential customers, stakeholders, people that would use our services. So we're reaching out to them this Friday. We've planned a breakfast meeting with our stakeholders so that we can tell them the good news that NIGCOMSAT services are available now. We're open for business. We have better services, enhanced services. So that's the news we're planning to share with our stakeholders this coming Friday?
Okay, perhaps you'd start off from tonight, in fact, and put out there what it takes to get connected to your services and how long, it takes for you to onboard a service, internet service provider. These are things people will be looking out for initially before you get to speak with them one-on-one.
Yes. We make the process as easy as possible for our customers. Now, the first thing, when we're talking about customer satisfaction, is to know the needs of the customer. So once we are able to assess the needs of the customer, when my colleague was talking, he talked about internet services. It could be voice, it could be data, it could be video. So once we know and access the needs of our customer, we do the needs assessment, and then we do the site survey. Our engineers will do the site survey so that we would know exactly what is required. And then once we have profiled the solution, and it can be done in 24 hours. 24 hours, yes, 24 hours we dot all the, we sign the dotted lines, the invoices, we know we do the costing and so on. Once payment is made, within 24 hours, then deployment takes place. We make it as easy as possible. That's the new NIGCOMSAT.
We're looking at a surprise on your face. You don't seem to believe that. But then sometimes, because it's not just about the broadband as well, sometimes even the people in the broadcast sectors, you need to bring up a channel, which of course you need to be transmitted to multiple countries in Africa, not just in Nigeria. Right? Once you have the playout server with us, do all the financials and all the other documentation that is needed. Make sure you have your license from the regulators, because we don't carry unwanted traffic, unlicensed traffic. You have to make sure that you are complying with the regulatory framework of the nation. So some of these things, some of them were surprised at the speed at which we can bring up some of these services. So especially some of them that are commercially off the shelf for us.
You see, even in broadcasting, for instance, quite a number of broadcasters would be looking to this. If you consider the fact that Nigerians pay so much for pay TV, and with all the challenges, and it's an ongoing challenge all the time. And if you said to someone, there is a place where NIGCOMSAT can come in and improve the services, in broadcasting particularly, quite a number would be looking to that.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, Mr. Stoba, because if you look at it, the pay TV in Nigeria today is for select section of the populace. Sometimes if you do the analysis, it could be about less than 33% of the populace that are using the pay TV. And then if you look at it, almost all the platforms we use, both the ones that are satellite-based, terrestrial-based, and other ones, you have to pay one form of subscription or the other. And then with the issue of digital switchover that has been ongoing in the country. So you can imagine what would happen tomorrow if the regulator enforces that everyone has to switch off the analog TV for the digital one. That means that there is going to be a large swath of the population with access to information, because they may not be able to afford the regular amount of monthly payment for all this pay TV. So there is the need for Nigeria to leverage NIGCOMSAT actually to establish, to ensure that digital switchover in Nigeria comes to reality, because that's the only way you can ensure inclusiveness for everyone, both the ones that could afford it and the ones that cannot afford it, to have access to information, to news, to content, to other digital things, media content being created. So NIGCOMSAT has a great role to play in this. We are not operators. We are merely an infrastructure company through which licensees and the other operators can leverage to do their businesses. Consider some people like ITS, Pinnacle, who are the
NTA.
And NTA.
I thought you were going to forget that.
Yeah, ITS is still is part of NTA's charge. So there are signal distributors actually for this. And the essence is that if they can come home to NIGCOMSAT, leverage the infrastructure we have. So even if we do the switchover or we enforce the shutdown of the analog television in Nigeria today, they will have something to depend on instead of depending on other foreign-based organizations to do that for them, because the solution is homegrown in Nigeria. So these are some of the things we look forward to, even for the broadcasters and internet service providers as well.
Speaking of which, let's go to where we would need to understand the links and just how one impacts the other. Nigeria recently joined the League of 5G countries, and here, how does that affect what NIGCOMSAT does or services? How does it impact? What's the link in all of this?
Okay, you know, the 5G technology has come to stay, not just in Nigeria, but globally. So initially, NIGCOMSAT was in custody of some of the spectrum that were supposed to be used for the 5G, which is the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum. So on our C-band, which we call the Palapa C-band, we were in custody of about 160 megahertz of that spectrum. So for the growth of the sector in Nigeria, NIGCOMSAT had to relinquish about 160 megahertz in order to ensure that 5G network is deployed in Nigeria. That has affected our C-band communication services, which was on the Palapa C. So we have migrated now to a standard C-band, which is a spectrum that starts from about 3.8 to about 4.2 gigahertz. These are mere, technical parlance.
Yes.
But then to an average man...
Yes, let's bring it down.
So to an average man, the major thing is that NIGCOMSAT has been a major player in supporting the enrollment of 5G in Nigeria by conceding some of our spectral resources to the National Frequency Management Council, which in turn considered it to NCC, and the mobile network operators were able to have access to this.
Okay, so it's not that, in layman's terms, it's not as if NIGCOMSAT has lost out on anything.
We have not lost out on any other thing, because what is now left for us to do is to move towards what they call the standard C-band spectrum. The standard C-band spectrum will enable NIGCOMSAT in its next launch or its next satellite project to, once we have it on board, we can continue to offer services to customers that still rely on the C-band. And we work, this industry is more of collaboration. We collaborate with other partners, other players in the industry to still make available to Nigerians that would like to use services on a standard C-band, applying technologies like filter to ensure that the effect of the 5G does not affect the quality of service that you utilize. So we are still open, working with other partners, other stakeholders, still offering these services to Nigerian consumers in that sector as well.
Well, a major part of this program would be what I'd refer to as we used to have back then, certain programs we call Please Explain, and there's so many things that we need to find out about, and it's highly technical for quite a number of people who are watching this now, and some would want to know, when you talk about these transponders, what are the different transponders that you have, and the type of applications that they can be used for, and again, the question of cost benefit.
Okay, I will do a bit of the transponder and leave my colleague to talk about the cost benefit.
Well, certainly.
Maybe to bring it closer, and maybe it starts with when some of us were doing physics, we know the relationship between frequency, lambda. Some of them were in integrated science and other things. But to break it down, when you talk about C-band, the C-band and satellite balance, the transponder, what it means is that if you have rain, you want that particular part of the satellite frequency or satellite network, that even when it is raining and raining heavily, it does not affect whatever you are doing with it, whether you are watching TV.
Which is what happens all the time.
So if you watch, anytime you are watching certain TV program or you are using your internet service, satellite broadband, and the rain comes and it disappears, you know you are not using C-band. So that is a good way for you to know. So those ones that disappear when there is rain means they are on a band we call the KU band or the KA band. Those are the differences between
You see,
them.
a lot of people would want to know that because it's not just watching TV. Internet services suddenly cease. In fact, you could be in the middle of an important financial transaction
Yeah, if you remember,
and you lose out.
in the 80s, for example, you remember people used to have big satellite dishes in their
Right.
home with which they were watching TV. Those were the C-band antenna. But what was how many people were able to afford that? It was only for the super rich. The common man could not afford it. So the advantage of the KU band is now, it enables you to use a smaller size dishes like we see around today, almost in most households. You see smaller size dishes that are not as big as those ones you use in the 80s. Once you see those smaller ones, which means affordability is key. A lot of people can buy it, but now the effect of rain can affect it. So you trade one off and get the other one.
And I don't want rain to affect what I'm doing.
That means you have to come to the C-band. And that's why in NIGCOMSAT we have all the bands to serve everybody. If you're a telecommunication operator, of course you know that people are making calls. You don't want it to drop while they're talking. Because for you, 1 minute downtime may not mean a lot to someone working at home. But for someone carrying millions of call traffics, a minute downtime means that if he's making 10 naira per 1 million calls, he's losing 10 million naira per minute. So to him, it scales, and it makes a lot of sense for him to leave the KU band, leave the KA band, and invest more on the C band. So if you're a home user that is at home watching TV, is not so critical to you. Even if you have a 1 minute downtime, you can afford, you're not losing a lot of revenue. So you can afford 1 minute downtime, you move to KU band. If you now want to get smaller form factor too that is cheaper, the ones that is almost like a 0.7696 meter, then you move to the one we call KA band. Those ones are far cheaper for end users. You spend little money and you're able to get it. And then the only thing too is that the rain affects it, but now you have bigger bandwidth pipe over it, and then you have the comparative advantage of having a total cost of ownership that is very low compared to other bands. So these are some of the differentiating factors. And then my
Okay, so let me add to what I said. So basically, like I said, we have C band, KU band, KA band. So when you ask, and when you want to rank it, you have C band, then KU band, then KA band. When you're talking about, and it depends on the critical nature of your business, how critical your business is. If your business is very critical, then you'd go for the C band. And like I said, that's when you have the 2.4 meter antenna, which is quite expensive. And then the service itself, C band is the most expensive because, of course, you're assured, okay, when he was talking about rain, it's called rain attenuation. You're assured that even when it's raining, it wouldn't affect your service. It wouldn't affect the quality of your service. So that's the most expensive because you just want continuity. You want reliability. And then with regards to cost, again, KU band is less expensive than C band. And with regards to the antenna and the customer premise equipment you would use, you would need something like maybe 1.8 meter antenna or even 1.2 meter antenna compared to 2.4 meter antenna that you would need for C band. So it's less expensive than C band. It gives more reliability than KA band, but it's not as reliable as C band. You know, so it depends. The reliability would also determine the costs Now, the third one is the Ka band, and that's when you have the antenna size that is less than 1 meter. So that's not really expensive compared to C band, compared to Ku band. But with regards to reliability, that's when you have degradation when it comes to rain. You know, that's when rain attenuation becomes a problem, because once it's raining, then it goes off. But it's more cost effective. So it depends on the nature of your business, how critical it is, and how, you know, if you feel it's not so important, the downtime is not so important, and I want affordability, then would advise our customers to go. Like I said, we always do a needs assessment to know what the customer really needs, what's your business, what are you doing, how can we come in to enhance value. And so based on that, we'll recommend, okay, go for C band, go for KU band, go for KA band, of course with the respective prices.
All right, of course, I do expect that you'd be encouraging them to go for the C band. It follows, doesn't it?
Maybe high-end enterprises will go for the C band, because for that size of a dish, you also require some kind of land mass to put that thing. But the KA band, it's so small, you can just put it on the pole on the side of the wall, just small.
I have the KA band at home.
Okay. Well, at this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, the phone lines will be open. It means you can get to join the conversation in the studio. And we'll look at other aspects as well. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. And now this is the time when we open the phone lines and you can join in the conversation with a question or a comment. But let's remind you, we do this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point. We ask you not to bother too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello would do. And so the lines will be open in a moment. You can take advantage of that and call in. And so many questions. I'm sure people out there want to ask and find out what benefit NIGCOMSAT can be to their lives. So keep those comments and questions coming through. But we start off with another of our reports, this time from Enugu.
Nigeria, like many other nations, has recognized the importance of a robust digital infrastructure if she must remain competitive on the global stage. This is where the Nigerian communication satellite, NIGCOMSAT, comes in. NIGCOMSAT has been providing the ICT backbone to help facilitate an already emerging financial technology. Established in 2006 with a mission to become the leading satellite operator in Nigeria and service provider in Africa, the Nigerian Satellite Communications launched its first satellite in the orbit in 2007. The launch was to enhance telecommunications, broadcasting, emerging networks, and other value-added telecommunications services, especially in the financial sector.
It is not always easy. Like in the bank, in those days, when you come to the bank, for bank staff to attend to customers, I must be lined up of people that will take the checkbook and go to whatever inside and check whether the balance of the person is right or wrong. And then if it is okay, he now has to go to another person to approve and a whole lot of things.
Their services can be witnessed in improved internet connectivity, extending the hitherto unreached rural communities. This has improved economic growth, e-commerce, and e-governance.
Curbing insecurity. Satellite does it very easily if we harness it very well. There's towers. You see dishes, what we call dishes, the areas, picking information. These have link with actual satellite like our Sat1, which we have Nigerian Sat1.
We are not yet at the top where we should be, because if you compare the performance of our satellites to that of the developed world, there's a lot that needs to be done. We need to maintain, we need to enhance the capability of the existing satellite. We also need to launch perhaps more strengthened ones.
However, notwithstanding its achievements, NIGCOMSAT has not been without challenges, especially from the private sector providers, financial sustainability, and the need to continually upgrade and expand its satellite infrastructure. With the world relying more and more on artificial intelligence and financial technology to power digital economy, the need to catch up with other well-established technologically advanced countries has become very paramount to enhance the growth of Nigeria's gross domestic product. This no doubt will help raise the standard of Nigerians with a population of over 250 million people. In Enugu, James Oparikocha.
All right, two quick issues, one from this last report and one that filtered to me just at the time we took a short break. And that one I'd like to start with, the question of launching of the satellite. And someone wondered, that filtered into my ears, and someone wondered, is it not possible to launch a satellite here? Do you have to go somewhere else to launch that? Perhaps anyone can give us that answer.
Should I?
Yeah, you go.
You know, the thing about launching satellite is that when you talk about launching satellite, you talk about launch vehicles. And when you talk about launch vehicle, you talk about rocketry. And when you talk about rocketry, you talk about superpowers. If you have rocketry technology today, launch vehicle, you have moved to the league of the superpowers. It's a technology nobody is willing to give.
Okay.
You have to either find a way to get it by yourself, to develop it. And I think Nigeria has a launch and propulsion center at Ekpe under National Space Research and Development Agency, which Nigeria is still working on. When people talk about rocket science, that this is rocket science, it truly means this is rocket science. Because for you to get into that aspect of technology, you have to be, once Nigeria gets that right, because it's not just satellite you can put on a launcher. If you decide to put something else, a missile or any other payload on it, it could carry it.
So the guys who have it are holding it close to their chest.
Close to their chest. Even in some countries just liberalized to train other countries in satellite communication, which is even a civilian purpose. There are some countries that put a ban on it until we are one of the countries in Africa first to get full training in that sector. So the thing is that, like they said, it's not something you jump into in a day.
All right.
It requires a gradual process and growth.
All right. Calls are coming through. Our first caller tonight is Dr. Ali calling in from Maiduguri. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
And honestly, I sympathize with the situation of this NIGCOMSAT because of their lack of patronage. So what I will advise is that why don't you go back, sit down with relevant authorities, relevant organizations, then look at a way of getting patronage. We have a very large market in Nigeria and the neighboring countries. So the best thing for you is that for you to be advertising, although you know your customers, you know your customers, they know you, but yet there should be advertisement. Then you have to go to the National Assembly and enact a law whereby it will at least discourage people from patronizing the foreign satellites and using your own. Then, although you say your own is cheaper, still look at the way of subsidizing your maybe prices, so that people will be encouraged to come into it. Like if the law will be enacted whereby anybody who is patronizing the outside satellite will pay some sort of fee which is higher than your own to maybe National Communication Commission or whichever authority that is there. Because we have very large market. And your crime of patronage, I believe if you go back, sit down, all of you, with the relevant authorities, relevant stakeholders, and see how you are going to improve on patronage. I honestly sympathize with you, although this thing is faced by everyone who is manufacturing something in Nigeria. Anything Nigerians are being scared of. So although I'm taking your time, I know in Malaysia, where the Malaysian government, when they are producing cars, so, and the people are allowed to buy cars from outside. If you buy a car from maybe Thailand, Singapore, or wherever, at $1 million, when you come to Malaysia, you will also pay another $1 million to the Malaysian government. So that discourages people from buying foreign cars. But they are now producing enough cars and meeting the demand in Malaysia. So something like that, if you adopt, definitely you will make a way forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali from Maiduguri. Yes, you want to comment on that, MD?
I will. And I want to thank Dr. Ali. I think he said some very valid points. You know, I don't know about trying to use force people in terms of trying to, enforce it that way. But I believe in being the preferred choice, because I gave you every reason why you should choose me. And he is right that we probably should, speak more and be proud to share more, make what we do more visible. People should understand what we do, and that's why we are here. But I want to say something I've realized, because that's one of the reasons we are doing this campaign and really talking about NIGCOMSAT. I think it's in the early 80s or 90s. A lot of people they found wearing the African fabric a bit substandard. Everybody wanted to be European, It wasn't seen as a thing of pride. Actually, it was like if you didn't have any money, then that's you go buy that fabric. But today, everybody's proud to wear or kit themselves in African fabric. Actually, it's seen as something you should be. It's even more expensive than trying to shop in Europe. And I think that's the perception we want to change. Just because it is done here, it is managed here, it is serviced from here, doesn't mean that it's substandard. It's something of a national pride. You should be proud to say, I'm using the services of NIGCOMSAT. We want to change that perception.
All right.
Can I add to
yes,
that?
Please.
Okay, if I may add to that, with regards to patronage, we do have some customers on board NIGCOMSAT. For example, okay, the C-band, because we had to consider C-band, but KU band and the other transponders, we have about 50% utilization and so on. But we understand that there is need to create more awareness with regards to our services. There is need to be more visible, and that's what we are doing now. So we do have some customers, but we know we can do better, we can have more. And with regards to enactment, there is actually an executive order. Is it 005? 005. Yeah, there is an executive order that gives places preference on local content, and we hope that this will be fully implemented, so that if there is a project, for example now, that has to do with communication satellites, the executive order says that preference must be given to local content, for example, which is NIGCOMSAT. We just hope that there will be the political will, to implement that, which is all we need.
Right. Our next caller is Mohammed Zakari, calling in from Suleja. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Mohammed Zakari Doko, calling you from Suleja, Niger State. I want to thank you for bringing up this topic on the national discourse. Just to add one or two things to what the earlier speaker talked about, Dr. Ali. We have this beautiful infrastructure, and we have an organization like Galaxy Backbone, that is not using your services. I'm not aware that the GBB is using NIGCOMSAT services. So I think you need to pursue more legislation to compel, some of these major stakeholders to patronize NIGCOMSAT. I think that's the way to go, because it is a national revolution that has to, be taken. And I think we need to take that direction. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed Zakari from Suleja. Again, comments on that. He just said something about NIGCOMSAT and Galaxy Backbone. Perhaps some clarification there.
Okay, with regards to NIGCOMSAT and Galaxy, we are actually sister agencies. Yes. We are under the same ministry. And contrary to what he said, they are actually one of our customers. We have a relationship with them, and we are hoping to build up on this relationship. But Galaxy has been our customer for a while now. So they are one of our customers, but we are hoping that we'll be able to expand that relationship so that they can acquire greater bandwidth, greater capacity from NIGCOMSAT. We're hoping to have more synergy with the other sister agencies within the ministry.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's it. So that puts paid to that. Mohammed Zakari says he's not aware. Well, so. Calling in from Abuja is... Sorry? Uche Oyinaya from Abuja. Did we get that right? Hello?
My question is premised on two things. First, there is a transaction, C-band transaction, between NCC and NIGCOMSAT, which was said to have, amounted to no fewer than 11 billion naira. We want to know what has happened to the fund by way of accountability, because the president and commander-in-chief want to know exactly how funds in government establishments are being managed. The second question is, how would the new management of NIGCOMSAT ensure that there will be transparency and that there will be a total cleansing of the rot that may have characterized the behavior discrepancies of the staffers over the years?
All right. Uche, did you get the first question?
Yes, we did.
And the second, all right. Well, but there are a lot of assumptions there, but I'll leave you to respond to that, MD.
So, Uche, thank you for that question. And just like you know, NIGCOMSAT is a government-owned organization, so our books are audited and our records are made public as required. So, in terms of how the monies were spent, that is definitely going to be public record. There's nothing to be hidden there. It was a transaction that was quite public, so that data does exist. But for his second question, I think the question was talking about, what was the question about?
Ensuring transparency in your activities. Yes. And like I said, a bit of it which had some assumptions really was that there was a rot in NIGCOMSAT. Well,
I don't know where he got the assumptions from, but I'm going to say that one of the things we are committed, and you would have seen in the past couple of weeks, is our desire to be accountable by the public, and we are making as much effort to make sure that we are there sharing with our stakeholders. We are there engaging with our stakeholders. And that's one of the reasons that drove us to have the breakfast session. Actually, the chief host for that event is the Honorable Minister himself. And that's the desire for the ICT industry to start to impact the populace and be accountable to them. So there's a lot of desire to do that. I cannot speak to the past, but I can definitely speak to the present leadership, and that's what we are keen on doing.
Mr. Chair, it's good to hear, because this is coming live and direct from our brand new MD, which is just a few weeks old, to NIGCOMSAT, which tells you clearly the new direction that NIGCOMSAT is going. So you can hear directly from her and the vision she has for the organization. So we only expect the best. And the best moving forward.
Back to the phones, Mohammed Abacha from Abuja. Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Mohammed Abacha. I want to build on the question that the first doctor called from Meduguri.
Dr. Ali, you mean?
Right. Yes, Dr. Ali. The question is there any plan for NIGCOMSAT to privatize or partially commercialize and get some partners in terms of ownership? Then see, because the question is most Nigerians are fearful of whatever that is government owned. A business cannot rely totally on government company to operate, especially on areas that are IT, which are so critical to its operation. Because most of the speakers say on legislation, this is business. You cannot force people if they are not 100% sure of the quality of service they expect, the reliability of service from NIGCOMSAT. So the head of marketing needs to tell us how reliable and efficient without disruption these services will be for companies to key in, no matter the level of legislation. If people are not sure of the reliability and continuity of the service, I don't think legislation can be able to help. Then the second aspect about pricing, there's what we call market penetration pricing. The head of marketing can advise. At the initial stage, they can start by a strategy of a sort of penetration pricing policy in order to catch the market. So legislation alone cannot be able to catch such.
Okay. All right. Mohammed Abacha. Okay. Well, straight.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I totally agree with him that the customers or the potential customers want value. So it's not about the legislation or so on. They want value, and that's what NIGCOMSAT is promising. With regards to reliability, of course, at the beginning of the launch of every satellite, when a satellite is launched, and that's even with NIGCOMSAT 1 hour, one could have 99.9% reliability. That's the standard and so on, but as the years go on. But with regards to reliability, NIGCOMSAT 1 hour is reliable. Our services are reliable and dependable. I said we have customers already. We have about 50% utilization. And so we have customers that have even come on board because of word of mouth from other customers that have experienced our services and have been satisfied with our services. So we don't compromise. Irrespective of legislation or not, we don't compromise when it comes to quality of service. And that's something that we're promising Nigerians, that it's not just about the legislation, but about what we can do to enhance or provide value, to deliver value to our customers. And thank you with regards to price, penetrative strategies and so on into the market. We have very price friendly. We work with our customers to ensure that we provide service that is competitive enough. We ensure that our prices are competitive enough with regards to the market prices. And one of the good things, like my colleague said earlier, is that our prices are domiciled in Nigeria, and so it's Naira based. And with regards to the exchange rate and so on, I believe that NIGCOMSAT prices are one of the cheapest in the industry, based on the fact that we are priced in Naira.
Another thing he touched to again was on the issue of doing business with government, and I would like to let him know that NIGCOMSAT is well aware of this, and that's why we created strategic business units with which Nigerians that would love to partner with NIGCOMSAT could work together in tandem with those strategic business units. There are 2 strategic business units in NIGCOMSAT as of today. One is called the Satellite Broadband and Broadcasting Company. Another one is called Satellite Infrastructure Company. So these are open to work with private sector stakeholders and other people too, if they want to form any kind of strategic alliances in order to deploy satellite services in any area in Nigeria.
Next call, Barry Don, calling in from Port Harcourt. Barry Don, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, let me thank you for this program that is very educating. And to simply ask, how can we take advantage of the NIGCOMSAT to promote education, particularly in the rural areas? In Port Harcourt, where I live, I do recall that in the 80s, NTA Port Harcourt used to organize a program called they solve mathematics, and those who are writing GC and JAM, they used to tune in then. But it was limited to Port Harcourt depending on the coverage. A station called Radio Rivers here in Port Harcourt, they do what they call English by radio. And the lecturers from tertiary institutions used to handle these courses, which those in the rural areas don't have this advantage. How can we leverage on this, which is your topic, to ensure that people in the rural areas can take advantage of programs like learning? Let me cite one quick example. When Awolowo introduced television in Nigeria 4 years ago, he said television will serve as a teacher. And that this topic we are discussing seems to me that if it is enhanced, it can promote distant learning. You know, so I would like the guests on the program to throw more light on this. And then another thing is training. How do we train people to understand? Because it's a high-tech language, and I sympathize with the guests because there are certain things they cannot really break down in pidgin English. And I sympathize with them, but they have to try. And that is part of the education I'm talking about. So please help in terms of training and workshop, particularly for journalists who are involved in dissemination of information. Then lastly, who are the people who can take advantage of this? Apart from when this is being mediated by maybe media, can individuals, where is the place of state government, local government areas to take advantage of this, to bring this service to the rural people, not only those in cities, Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt? I stop there.
Right. Thank you very much, Barry Don.
Yes.
So,
okay, so I'll take one of them, then maybe my colleagues will take. So Barry, thank you very much. Barry is now forcing us to let the cat out of the bag. We're hoping that on Friday we could let this cat, but Barry wants it out now. So a key thing he said was EdTech solution, which is something we've kind of alluded to in some of our conversations. On Friday, we are actually putting out there because one of the things we want to do is go for integrated solutions. So we give you internet, so what? You know, it makes sense if there's a use case. And that's where EdTech, AgriTech, FinTech, all those things come. So on Friday, one of the things we're going to be putting out there is a solution we are partnering with private sector to put out there. It's an EdTech solution. But to do some of these things at scale, it's better we work with state governments. You know, even though we will demo it and show them, I think to achieve scale, better if we do it with the state government. And that's one of the reasons you would have seen we are going around and engaging a lot with our stakeholders. Like we just came from Gombe today. You know, those are use cases we are looking for to work with either institutions or governments to get the solutions out there at scale. So not just one school or two schools. Maybe every school in the local government that needs to use it. So we layer that on top of the broadband and we give them access.
All right, next part of that question, the second part is to do with training.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to take?
Okay, with regards to training, we actually provide training to our stakeholders. About 2 years ago, actually, we trained about 600 Nigerians. We collaborated with our ministry, and we trained about 600 Nigerians in 6 states. Okay. Yeah, in 6 states. So we did that. So we do regular training. Apart from that, we have
and you must mention too that some of them actually ended up being resellers.
Yes.
So they become installers and resellers for us.
And then we organize annual training for installers too. You know, on installation, we do hands-on training, we do classroom training. So we train regularly, and even we catch them young. So we have we encourage schools to even come in for excursions, and then we have our engineers talk to them. They see some of our facilities, we talk to them about the satellite technology so that they are intrigued, they ask questions and so on. So we catch them young to keep them interested in sciences and communications and satellites. And then we do training, we do that. We're very, very big when it comes to capacity development.
And let me just add a practical example. So this morning, I just flew in from Gombe. And what I did 9 o'clock this morning was to go to government secondary school in Gombe and talk to the students. Because we feel that's the best way to attract talent. You know, make these use cases relatable. People want to see what is possible, what is obtainable. And they start to dream about, you know, maybe coming to work for us. And that's how we've gotten people to work with us in the past. So to synthesize, to get the population, the students, you know, catching them young, let them be aware that this actually exists in their country.
And sorry if I may add lastly, I said earlier that with regards, because he mentioned NTA Port Harcourt having an educational program and Awolowo, during Awolowo's time. We have that on, that's what I said earlier with regards to our DTH platform, that a state government can actually get a channel to broadcast educational content to every part of the state. Thank you.
We have calling in from Zaria, Professor. Oh, well, we've lost that call that was coming in from Zaria, but, well, still keep the calls coming through. And the NIGCOMSAT team, led by the MDCU, still here with us, and we'll go through some of those areas where you need some clarification and clarity. One aspect of the question asked by Barry Don earlier had part of it had been answered in the first part, really, to do with who can take advantage. And the MD was saying at this point you prefer to work with the states, but outside the state governments, who else?
Well, not just states. I think I was saying for the ed tech, because you want to do it at scale, because you can do it with private partners as well. So a lot of the things we do, because of, you know, if you own a satellite, like literally, is a massive investment, is to do a lot of B2B. So a lot of the sister agencies of MDAs are our clients because they would need large-scale bandwidth. We do a lot with large-scale enterprises, ISPs, a large corporation, mobile operators, you know, because they also need large-scale, and we can deliver large-scale. We don't really do B2C. We do that via resellers, so to consumers. So we have resellers that could get our bandwidth and, you know, break it into chunks and then
people will be looking out for that, really, because that's where they can get actually keen. But back to the phones, we have Felix calling in from Akwa Ibom. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Felix, go ahead.
Hello.
Right. Yes, we're with you. Go right ahead. Felix from Akwa Ibom, are you on the line? Okay, we've lost that call too. Okay.
Maybe it's raining where Felix is.
Right. Possibly, and this is what would would want to see eliminated, especially when you're on a subject such as this, where it's extremely important. And so again, it goes to demonstrate what you've been talking about and why people should come over to you. Right. Okay. Okay, fine. So you just keep those calls coming through. We still have some more time with our guests here. And oh dear, there seems to be an interference on the line. Okay. Well, this we started talking about earlier on, and what we're just going to do now is to break it down into...
Hello, good morning.
Oh dear.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
You're on to Tuesday Live. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is calling from Lagos.
Okay, can you just do us a favor? Turn down the volume of your TV. I just heard an echo and a hurl back, okay? If you do that, then just go ahead with a question or comment. Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask how this satellite can help to curtail the acts of the Boko Haram and the insecurity infrastructure we are facing in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay. My colleague talked about
All right, yes, well, that was explained a short while ago, but all the same, there's no harm in reiterating and restating what can be done. Right.
Communication, okay.
Okay, go on.
Go ahead.
Communication is key when it comes to security. Like he said that there are different satellites. So communication satellites don't carry cameras and so on. So we can't provide images to say this is where you have the Boko Haram camp and so on. But when it comes to communication, providing that support with regards to communication, it is key. Now, if you want to compromise security, it's easy to sabotage, fiber cords and things like that. You can easily sabotage that. But you can't do that with a satellite that is about 36,000 kilometers from Earth. So you can't sabotage that. And that's where we come into play. Communication, timely communication can make a difference between life and death when it comes to security. So we provide support to security agencies. That's something that NIGCOMSAT can do. That's something that NIGCOMSAT does. So we provide support with regards to security, and because it can be easily sabotaged, it means that it's reliable, it's dependable, it's consistent. So information when it's needed among security agencies, which is very critical. So that's one of the ways in which we're assisting and supporting security in Nigeria.
Okay, we have Sadiq calling in from Maiduguri. Hello, Sadiq.
Hello, Sadiq. Hello, Sadiq. Good evening.
Sadiq, turn down the volume of your TV set or just move away from it so we don't have this interference of a hurlback. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
How are you?
Go right ahead.
Hello, hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Sadiq. Go on. Is Sadiq still there or that call's gone? Right, okay. Quite a number of dropped calls tonight. Okay, so at this point we'll go over once again how NIGCOMSAT can provide cost-effective and reliable solutions to ensure service delivery across and that need communities that need access. And this is what we'd like to go on, because we can't overstate the need for full or total, if you like, access for all parts of the country.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about that, the way Nigeria stands today is that people living in the urban areas or areas that are completely served do not fully understand what people that live in remote area go through. I was in one community around our Kaleri towards where Nigeria discovered oil in the northeast and other things, and I was fortunate to travel through the land, through the hinter communities and every other thing, and I saw the infrastructure, I saw some of the facilities and amenities that people have to live with. So sometimes when you are in the city, you don't understand what others go through. You know, you walk out from your house, you go to the nearest ATM, you withdraw money, you go to the nearest POS, you're able to get cash out of it, and then you want to register your child in a school, maybe for WAEC or NECO or some other things. You simply do it over your phone or through the computer in your house, or through some other smaller devices or cyber cafe around your neighborhood. But then you don't realize that there are about 27.9 million Nigerians that do not have that kind of opportunity, that do not have that level of access. And these people are living in area that if you extrapolate the landmass, you're talking about almost like 50% of Nigerian landmass. And then how do you get to this population sample? The only way you can get to this population sample is by what? you can't use fiber because the landmass is huge.
Costly.
You can't use any other kind of technology because you're going to spend a lot of money because they're like scattered in a large area of land.
Okay.
So that's where the NIGCOMSAT kiosk, ICT kiosk, comes to play.
All right, we'll just ask you to hold on a while. Let's get this call from Joss. Hello. Couldn't quite make out the name, but if you just introduce yourself, then you can go ahead with it. There's a caller from Joss. Go ahead, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ponjo Zanap Riverland. I'm calling from Jos. I'm a computer engineer and installer. I'm into satellite. I live as a partner for almost 30 years. But I have a question and a disappointment as well. NIGCOMSAT has been there for years, and seriously, some of us we had expectations to benefit from NIGCOMSAT. But it's unfortunate that a lot of platforms, PPH platforms, are not really on NIGCOMSAT. I wonder why that is. Why are the likes of TFTV not on NIGCOMSAT? And also, why is it that we don't have internet facilities in schools, like secondary schools, all over Nigeria, since we own a satellite? I think I'll make do with those few questions.
Okay, should I go?
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joanna from Jos, for your questions. First is that for us in NIGCOMSAT, we are more of an infrastructure company than a content provider or the broadcaster. So what we do is that we provide our platform for people to use, to leverage, to do their content. We do not own the content you see over NIGCOMSAT. As of today, NIGCOMSAT hosts some licensed DTH operators on our platform, and then we host some other direct satellite broadcasters on our platform. We host some national TV operator on our platform as well. All combined, we have more than 60 to 80 channels on free-to-air, which you don't pay anything to subscribe. You don't pay any kind of fees because these guys, they come to our platform to host their content. So the only thing we do is to ensure that you are properly licensed. So if you're an installer, we still encourage you, you can reach out to us via our website, which is www.nigcomsat.gov.ng. And then you can get back to us on email. We can give you the contact details of how you can interconnect other people, people that want a free-to-air TV services on NIGCOMSAT, where they can access up to 60 or more channels for free on a monthly basis. So this is something that we stand for. So like we said too, there are other, we do not, in NIGCOMSAT, we solicit, we encourage you, and we try to let you see reason why you should join us. We do not coerce, we do not force people to be on NIGCOMSAT. So other people that are not on us, we continue to reach out to them to see the benefits and the cost benefit, because you're actually saving money for yourself and you are having more benefits when you join the service of NIGCOMSAT.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. The second
Okay.
question.
Sorry, we back to the phones. We have Abba calling in from Abuja. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, Abba. Yes, Abba, could you just speak up a little bit?
My name is Abba from Dubai. Okay. Yes. I want to thank you for your contribution to humanity and Mr. Surisoba. God bless you, and I want to really appreciate the people from the NIGCOMSAT in the studio. This is an educative program. I have really learned a lot from the program today. In fact, it's very close to my heart, but I don't really know what will be there. If not for today, I don't know. So I'm just happy to be awake and watch the program. Also, I want to use this medium to call on maybe NTA what and what is happening, where to go when we need this and that. So I want to appreciate the staff of NIGCOMSAT in the studio also.
All right, Abba. Nice view. All right, well, it's part of what the NTA undertakes to do, to bring you all the information that you need, and this program is part of it. It's part of its enlightenment mandate as well. So, good enough. Yes.
Okay, Cyril, if I may answer the second question raised by the gentleman from Jos.
Yes.
He asked that why don't we have internet in all schools in Nigeria?
Right.
We would love to have that, really, you know. And I think that's one of the focus of the ministry, to have broadband penetration, you know, all over in the rural areas and so on. Now, we have different agencies within the ministry, and we have a mandate. We have some agencies like NIDA and so on. They push this, you know, they have annual projects that push for internet connectivity in the schools. But some of these projects ride on NIGCOMSAT. But the way the projects work sometimes, it could be for 1 year, it could be for 2 years. So they make a payment for 1 year and 2 years. Now the issue is sustainability. So what we do is that those schools that are connected to NIGCOMSAT or to the internet via NIGCOMSAT through the project, we kind of engage with them even after the subscription, after the paid annual subscription or 2-year subscription. We try to engage with them to see how we can still retain them and work out something that is affordable for them. You know, we are a company, even though we are government owned, but we are a company and we need to generate revenue.
Limited.
Yeah, we need to generate revenue, so we see how we can work with them to ensure that. But we'd love to have connectivity in all schools.
Yeah. Well, at the start, 99.9% you say, but down the years, there is some depreciation.
Yeah, that's the standard.
All right, that's the standard. And so this brings me to ask, what's the lifespan?
The lifespan of a satellite, of a communication satellite, is 15 years. You know, it doesn't mean that after 15 years it will be non-existent, but of course reliability would have drastically reduced and so on. Yes.
Explain to us what follows that. You were on your platforms and your satellite is 13 years.
Yeah.
I'm just using this as a hypothesis, and it's 13 years. Do I need to begin to worry?
Not at all.
Can I answer that question? Because we get that question a lot, and I tell people, do you go to a mobile operator and you tell them, oh, 5G is coming out soon, so tell me, when are you going to give me 5G? Because I don't want to be on 3G. I think we are the technology expert. Let us worry about that. I think what most consumers and users want is service quality. You don't go to, I don't want to call any name, but you don't go to a mobile operator and say, hey, I want to buy 3G or 4G. You say, I want a service that can do this, this, and this. I want good quality video. I want to browse. I don't want it to buffer. I don't want it to drop. And I think that's what users actually demand. Users don't buy technology. So sometimes when we start to focus on the technology, oh, when is the satellite going to be? I'm like, you don't go to a network operator and tell them your 3G is going to expire next year. When are you going to give me?
But we can come to you and say, look, I want to be certain that I have uninterrupted, reliable services, regardless of all these technicalities that you've just explained. And that's what we expect
that is our job.
Right.
That is why we have the experts, is to create that roadmap to ensure that service quality remains as the technology evolves. Even though, that's what you do, even though you know that the satellite has a lifespan, you make a plan to replace the satellite as when due. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, well, it does.
Okay. And that's what basically we're doing now. You know, we're working, and my colleague talked about collaboration. You know, in this industry, collaboration is key. So we're working with other satellite operators to ensure continuity, and we are also working on the launch of a second satellite to ensure that continuity.
Now that is what most people want to know, and that was what I was trying to get out of you.
The next thing they ask when is the date.
No, he wouldn't go that far about a date, but just the assurance that yes, you have a satellite, but it by no means says that's all you're going to have. That there are plans, and that is, as we begin to wind down, is where we go next. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line, what do you see NIGCOMSAT and Nigeria?
So 3 years, 4 years down the line, first of all, I see a huge improvement in our service quality because we have literally reprioritized. You know, for a while, it's been a bit of a case of we know that maybe sister agencies will come to us. But now we're like, no, we want to be preferred. So we want you, in the midst of your options, to choose us because we're your best option. And that changes your mindset in terms of how you run your business, in terms of how you provide service and support your clients or partners. So that's one. And two, in terms of technology, we also want to not just remain relevant but competitive. You know, technology evolves. I'm talking about 2G, 3G, 4G. Same thing with satellite. It gets better, we get newer technology. And we want to remain relevant in the market, that we go for technology that keeps us years ahead of the market. Without mentioning any names or trying to be technical, those are the things we are now focused on.
All right. Yes.
I think the MD has said it all. I think she's
I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you what stands in your way towards achieving these ideals, because well, it's up to you how you solve that. All the people want to know is that there is NIGCOMSAT that is reliable, and it's providing the services that are expected, and so those are the reasons why you'd be the preferred. So we won't talk about what's standing in your way. You know those things, but you just re-emphasize to us the services and, of course, how you reach out to your customers.
My MD has given the guarantee, and that's why we're here basically, that we will deliver reliable service, we'll deliver value for money.
Right.
Yeah. Good. So you can take that to the bank.
See, well, next time we come, you can then ask us that when you came here this months ago, you said this. Have you kept to your promise?
Fine. You've even taken it. You took it right out of my mouth, because the next thing would be, what are the targets that you have set for yourself and timelines? Now, I really would want to know that, because for an organization that says it has now repositioned itself to provide much needed services, what are your timelines? What targets have you set yourself along the line towards achieving those?
I think one of the easy ones we've set is, especially since, you know, new leadership and all that, is to relaunch the service by improving all the services. Clients had had some challenges with us in the past with some of our services. We've gone back to the drawing board and we engineered those services for optimal performance. And that was one of the shortest timelines, isn't it? Because now we're going back to the market, and February 10th, we're going and actually, because some of the clients don't even know the service has been revamped. So that's us publicly announcing that you use it and tell us service has been revamped. So that's one of the timelines. The second timeline we want to see is even before, like you had mentioned, the technology itself or the satellite itself gets to its end of life, we need to have that replaced, and replaced in a timely manner. You know, taking care of all the other requirements. And that's one big objective for us, is to have that clear roadmap. Because you're a technology company, you have to know how you want to evolve the technology at each step. So we want to do that. That's a big one for us on the table that we are really working on. So that's one of the big priorities on the table. And I think this maybe the third one I will ask is, we talk about reprioritization. In the next 12 months, what I envision for us is we should be able to favorably compete with any private operator in the market. That means every aspect is more holistic of what we do. It's just not pricing. It's just not service delivery. It's just the way we are structured to deliver service or how we engage. Every part of our organization is restructured to do that.
And even in the minister's roadmap, if you look through the roadmap that the Honorable Minister, Dr. Tijani Boson, published, he talked about upgrade of NIGCOMSAT's infrastructure in that roadmap too. So these are part of the plans of the government to ensure that all the communication infrastructure are upgraded to meet the newest challenges and competing technology globally.
Finally, what would you say about your capacity, and now talking about personnel, not just the company itself, its people, capacity and capability in this drive?
You know, satellite technology is, it's an evolving technology where you require experts, you require people with knowledge, in-depth knowledge of the, it requires constant training and retraining.
Right.
And that's what the company has been trying to do over the years. We do in-house training whereby we update each other. We expose ourselves to conferences, international journals and other things, and then you see a lot of people going on education to gather more knowledge. And then we've had combined knowledge of, if you combine the knowledge and the expertise of most of the staff, it comes to like 100 years of combined experience of people working in that sector. So, and it's not an industry you can say I'm self-sufficient. It's an industry that challenges you every day, so you keep learning and relearning and learning more. So, and that's the spirit with which we have in NIGCOMSAT. You see the engineers, you see the people in legal, marketing, other sectors, HR, everybody striving hard to update themselves, and management is now making the environment conducive for everyone to be inclusive in the system, and then challenge themselves to learn more and be the best they can be in the industry, because we know we're competing globally.
Right.
And if I can add to that, you know, even from the very beginning, developing capacity has been very important to us. So when NIGCOMSAT 1 was even being launched, one of the things we emphasized was capacity building. And that's why we ensured that 50 Nigerian engineers were trained in China for over 1 year. They were part of the building, the know-how, technology transfer with regards to the satellite. And so after, well, some stayed for 1 year, some stayed for 1.5 years. So they were part of everything about the training. And they came back with this knowledge to Nigeria, and I'm glad to say that these engineers are still with us. We have our network operating center, we have our satellite control center. That's where the satellite is being viewed, that's where the satellite is being monitored. And we have Nigerian engineers that were trained in China. These Nigerian engineers are the ones domiciled in these centers, and they're the ones managing the centers. So we have the best of the best in NIGCOMSAT, and we keep training and retraining to ensure that we still retain the best of the best.
All right. This question is outside NIGCOMSAT. When you look out, given what communications has become in the world, when you look out today, you see a Nigerian society, and where you see the capacity of telecommunications in this country.
Where do I see it?
Yes.
That's a good question. Where do I see it? In terms of technology itself, I think we can sit shoulder to shoulder with some of the great powers that be, you know, because think about it, there's still countries that don't have 5G. There are still countries that don't have 5G. Our smartphone penetration, maybe not on the high side, but it's worth watching because of the way it's evolving. But I think more could be done. That's the truth, because it's a large country with, I don't want to say skewed, you know, we have the haves and the have-nots. Let me put it that way in simple terms. And for it to be inclusive, we have to remember that the country is not focused a lot only on just a segment. If we have to remember that to be inclusive, we have to think about the others. You know, you can't have only this technology for those that can afford it. You have to consider the rest of the population.
All right. Yeah. And it is on that note we must leave this conversation for now. And thank you all for coming. Mrs. Jane Nkechi Egerton Idehe, Managing Director, CEO, NIGCOMSAT. It's been interesting talking to you.
Thank you, Cyril. Thank you, viewers.
Nemego Obiora, Group Head, Satellite Broadband Broadcast Company, subsidiary and special business unit of NIGCOMSAT. Thank you.
It's a pleasure and thrilling talking with you today, Mr. Stover.
And then thank you also to Olufunke Fagbeja, Head Marketing NIGCOMSAT. It's been interesting meeting with you.
Thank you too. It's been a pleasure, really. Thank you.
We hope you come again, so we can talk more about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. And thanks to you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.